And we are back. It is leg day. We are in the what? It's the third lifting day after my deload week, and I feel pretty good still. I've been sleeping a lot better recently, training a lot better because of that deload and that rest. So I think it was a very smart decision to do that. Now, I'm gonna hand it over to editor Alex so he can explain everything else. I was just saying to my mate there that I just want to concentrate on the lifting now, and it's probably going to be more of a voiceover style video for the next few weeks, whilst I'm concentrating on this cut and whilst I'm trying to focus on keeping my physique as complete as possible through this cut, treating it like a reset basically. So, it's leg day. Voiceover Alex is going to talk you through all the lifts and why I'm doing them or how I'm doing them, and any other stuff he wants to talk about. Right now, I'm going to concentrate on moving some heavy weight in a good controlled manner with some good form. Hey guys, editor Alex here, and there's not honestly too much to report about this session. It was a pretty normal looking session that did not look too dissimilar from other leg sessions that are on my channel. So in terms of substance and content of this video, there's not going to be too much to add that you've not heard before regarding the exercises and how I'm going to be training my legs in this video. However, I will add notes or reference things when they are important. Like in this exercise here, I'm really trying to concentrate on keeping my core as stable as possible. That's one of my weak points that I've recently noticed and realized I need to work on a lot. It's funny how this whole fitness arc of mine started by really wanting abs when I was like 13, 14 because I was a fat kid, and then now I barely ever train them. I saw a meme the other day and it said that what was it? It was some guy with taking a video of all his lifting equipment, and the caption was, "This all started because I wanted abs in 60 seconds." And it sort of threw me back in time because I remember watching a bunch of old school YouTube videos on how to get abs in 5 minutes or abs in 10 minutes, thinking naively as a kid would do that it would actually work. And then you quickly realize that, yeah, it takes a hell of a lot more effort than doing some crunches before a party or doing a couple of sit-ups and leg raises before going to the beach. It takes a hell of a lot longer than that. And sadly, that is what everybody knows, or what I know now. And I guess that's the moral of the story, is that everything that's worth having, or the things that you want that are worth having, take a little bit of pain or a little bit of effort to get to, and a hell of a lot of time. Sometimes people can take a shortcut, but how frequently does that happen? So I got into conversation with somebody the other day about why I train the way I do or order my exercises the way I do. And it was an interesting conversation to have because obviously their targets were completely different from mine. And there were some points where we agreed upon everything. And they said, surely if you're trying to get big legs, you prioritize this or you prioritize that. I was like, yeah, that's exactly the point. You prioritize the things that you want to put the most effort into because of that neurological fatigue that builds up during a session and the depletion of energy that happens throughout the session. Of course, you can mitigate that with a good intra-workout drink, some electrolytes as well. It is actually really advisable to have an intra-workout drink that will help you perform a lot better towards the end of your session. And if I was sponsored, this is exactly where I'd put the ad for one. But anyway, he asked me, why do I start with my hamstring curls and stuff like this? Well, it's because they're not going to be as fatiguing as a conventional deadlift would have been if I was to put it here, because I do my deadlifts on my pull day. And they serve as something that helps me get ready for my squat patterns, either that be a hack or a Smith machine squat. This is the best way for me to address my hamstring volume without really tearing them apart, because I do a heavy pull day, rest, and then do legs. Back to the point though, I think each person should really ask the question of why and how to get to the objective that they have in mind. Mine is to grow as much as possible all over when I'm in my gaining phase. Whilst I'm in my cutting phase, it's to maintain as much muscle as I can whilst I'm cutting, or stimulate growth where possible. Now, obviously, I can't portray the tone
and the attitude that we both had in the conversation. But it definitely made me feel happy that I can go into a conversation about training and understand that what this person is doing over here is not affecting me and is entirely for them. Their reason to train or their objectives are completely different from mine. But I definitely did not get that sort of feeling from the person I was speaking to. And it's a self evaluation thing. And definitely a little bit of naivety in that, I think, if I can be so rude as to say that. But that being said, it's a gym that's full of lovely people, the one that I go to. And I'm happy that I've been going there for so long and I've made so many friends there and can continue to train there and enjoy my time in that space. Because I think I got pretty lucky in terms of commercial gyms and the kind of space and team that work in there, as well as the people that come in and out of it. My next set, actually, a friend of mine, Harry, comes and helps me out on the set. He's a very accomplished and intelligent guy when it comes to training, and a very good coach in his own right. I'm also very glad I got him to help me out on this set because it was a heavy, heavy set.
I'm gonna go to failure.
That's what I do, yeah.
Please refrain. Right.
Push with your heels. There we go.
One more.
Yep. Big slab of meat, boy.
Fuck, bro. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Good stuff.
That feels horrid. That feels horrible.
Yeah, watching that setback really made me relive how bad it felt going through that set. And it's definitely because of how Harry was helping me out on the concentric portion of the movement. He definitely helped me push past failure there. And it's definitely not something I'm going to be doing too frequently in this portion of my training because it's not really going to help me rest up and recover too well because of that deficit, that caloric deficit that I'm in. And it's only going to get steeper. But straight after the hack squat, I went into some loaded SISSY squats, which I feel are one of the best movements to hit your entire quadricep. Now, obviously, because your rec fem is a biarticular muscle, as in it crosses your hip joint and your knee joint, you want to be making sure one of those joints isn't moving. Obviously, you can do leg raises, which are going to hit your rec fem, but they're not going to hit it as directly as something like a sissy squat would. That being said, you need to make sure your hips are locked out, and you do that by simply tensing your glutes as much as you can, whilst also keeping your core as tight as possible. And straight after my sissy squats, I hit the other greatest of all time quadricep exercise, which is the leg extension. Now, our machine is pretty good, don't get me wrong. However, I've seen leg extension machines at other places that have higher ranges of motion and heavier loads on them, heavier stacks. And I don't think we have the permission to use gym pins here, nor do I actually have one. I was thinking about getting a gym pin, but I'm seeing a lot more gyms just ban them outright because they technically are overloading the machines and may break them. But whilst I don't have a gym pin, I will still be doing leg extensions on this machine, and I just go for higher reps and just do rest pauses and different ways of intensifying the exercise, I guess, because I'm not really going to not use it because it does help me grow my legs, and to leave it out probably wouldn't be the best idea because there's not really that great of a selection of leg exercises that work as well as this one does, in my opinion. That being said, though, it's got me thinking of the idea of maybe venturing out to different gyms and seeing other bits of equipment for other body parts as well, and just getting a bit more variety in my workouts, I guess. There's a new gym opening up in the center of where I live, and I'm thinking about having a second gym membership. There's another gym called PHX or Phoenix, and their equipment's great as well. It's just that the commute there was not exactly the most ideal thing to have to go through. After the leg portion of my workout, I decided to do some abs and work my core a little bit. So I did some cable crunches, my favorite, and yeah, just bog standard, make sure my core's working. Midway through the set though, you saw I just moved my feet backwards. I was thinking, how could I make it so that it's just my upper abs working and not my hip flexors or anything else getting involved? And pushing my feet backwards underneath the bricks actually made it so, one, it was harder. Two, the range of motion was just limited to the top third or top quarter. So it was just spinal flexion, which I was concentrating on. And that's essentially all you're concentrating on when you're doing a crunch on the floor. It's just that with this variation, it's loaded. And what does hypertrophy ask for? Motor unit recruitment. And how do you increase motor unit recruitment? With heavy loads. Now, do not get me wrong, I'm not in the scientific lifter base camp, or nor am I one of the disciples. However, it is definitely an intelligent way of looking at things, scientifically that is. You have to understand what mechanisms you're trying to use in order to get to your goals. So having a basic understanding of those things is paramount, especially if you're trying to profess or help people out, which is what ultimately I'm trying to do. You have to understand the thing that you're doing or you're telling other people to do before you can start doing that. Now, this next set is very, very blurry, so won't make you watch it. So we're just going to skip ahead and go to the physique check. And this is what I look like as of the 21st of May 2025. And this is without a upper body pump and not being too well fed. I do look a little bit softer than I did a few days prior because of some salt intake I noted down. But yeah, I feel pretty happy with my physique at the moment, and the scale is steadily heading down. However, looking at the coming weeks and my current physique, I think I definitely need to make sure that I am down regulating my carbohydrate intake and maybe including a little bit more cardio. However, there's already very little time to include more cardio. So it might be just a case of just a diet and food adaptation that I need to implement. However, we're going to stay at around about the same calories as I'm on at the moment and continue to see what that does. That is around about 2,600 to 3,000 depending on whether or not it is a rest day or a training day. And obviously the composition of each of those meals does change, whether the ratio is between fats or carbohydrates. Obviously with a slightly favorable carbohydrate ratio on training days and a higher fat ratio on resting days. But yeah, that was the session. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.